Introduce Linda Lee Tarver first to come up. She has served the people of Michigan and the Election Affairs Integrity Liaison with the Michigan Department of State and former Civil Rights Commission in 2013. And we've seen her around. I haven't seen you since we had an in-person convention. And but it's very good to see you again. That's been the problem with these virtual conventions. You just don't see people. So everybody, Linda Lee Tarver.
Hi, thank you so much. So just a little bit, I see my brother from another mother, Norm Schinkel, is here. I was a precinct delegate. I got into politics decades ago, and the first person to welcome me in was Norm Schinkel. I was part of he talked me into running for county commissioner, and he also assisted me in understanding what a precinct delegate was. Then I became his vice chair for Ingham County. I became the chair of Ingham County. I became the ethnic vice chair for the Michigan GOP. And then I became president of the Republican Women's Federation of Michigan. And then I joined the Black Voices for Trump. And that's what I was working on, Women for Trump, Black Voices for Trump, and Evangelicals for Trump last year. And honored to do all of that. And so on November 3rd, we expected what we had seen all along was that we won the election and that it would reflect that. So the election in several states, five states and 5 cities was stolen, in my opinion. And so I testified on December 1st in front of the Senate Oversight Committee hearing about some issues that I know that occurred. I worked under 5 secretaries of state, the last one being the devil herself. Okay, the sister of the devil. But under Richard Austin, Candace Miller, Terry Lynn Land, Ruth Johnson, and the sister of the devil. And so I retired in 2019. I dedicated the time and worked very hard to ensure that our president was reelected. I know that he was. There were issues and there are still issues, but our election issues that we had encountered on November 3rd and the 4th were obvious, and they had been going on. And I believe that the Lord himself wanted us to do something about it. Because had we accepted the results of that election as the left wanted us to, then we would be complacent. And so what transpired after that were a series of rallies and discussions with our lawmakers. I'm not just satisfied with the bills that has been introduced in the Senate. I'm not just satisfied with that. Because any law that they make, and I said this on December 1st, any law that they make, Janice Winfrey and Jocelyn Benson will break. They will. It doesn't matter. They will break the law and ask for forgiveness later. But what they're doing right now is making it very difficult to cheat and steal. And so we are glad that the lawmakers are doing that portion of it. I've been also petitioning with other groups to ensure for a forensic audit of the TCF Center. Yes. And so I'm going to share with you a few things that they're doing at a high level. And Josh Haley, he is a pastor, associate pastor in Owasso, Michigan, Shiawassee County, and he has worked with me and served with me as the communications PR writer for Secretary of State Ruth Johnson when she was Secretary of State. So we served together. So one of the things that the Republican-led Senate and House are doing is they're trying to ensure voter ID. That is necessary, voter ID. Voter ID ensures that you just don't walk up and say, "My name is Lana Majiapani." Yeah, that's my girl back there. My name is Lana Mangiapane. Now, if I can pronounce her name, I can certainly get away with voting in Detroit. Lana Mangiapane. Or my name is Brenda Savage. That's my girl. That's my girl right there. My name is Brenda Savage. I want to vote. Or I am President Linda Holloway of the Bloomfield Republican Women's Club. I'm Linda Holloway. I'm a CPA, and I want to vote. Now, we know all that is not true, but that did not stop people in Detroit. So we want to close that loophole, make it very difficult to cheat. And so making it difficult to cheat is an important tool. So voter ID. We are asking people to come to Lansing to testify in front of the Senate hearings, election hearings. Ann Bolin is over the House Elections Subcommittee, and Senator Ruth Johnson is over the Senate Elections Subcommittee. And so one of the things that we are asking you to do, one thing that you can do, is go and testify for or against the bills and how they are drafted. And so I'm working with another group out of Stockbridge, Michigan, that are evaluating each of the bills, what's in it and what you like and don't like. They need to see Republicans. The ACLU is there, the League of Women Voters is there, the Michigan Democrat Party is there, the devil himself is there to testify, but they need to see friendly faces and supporters to come and give them feedback on the bills that they have presented. And so I've shared with them when they talked about voter ID, because I happen to be black, but I was told by a local Lansing newspaper, I live in Lansing, but I was told that I was a racist white supremacist. That's what they published. To my husband's surprise, I said, "You're married to a racist white supremacist." The Democrats don't have any more tools in their toolbox. So when they call me a racist white supremacist, published in the newspaper, in my local newspaper, the Rag newspaper, trash newspaper, if you calling me a racist white supremacist, then you have run out of unique ideas. And they have. You're a racist, 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 I'm a racist. Everybody's a racist if they want freedom and liberty and honest elections. So know that when you go to testify. But I stood up there and I said that black people can show IDs. Black people can get IDs. Black people can put a stamp on an absentee ballot and mail it in. I'm a racist. So even if you just say that, maybe you just represent whatever. Polish people can put a stamp on an envelope. Italians can vote with an ID. So it might sound ridiculous, but that is what I shared in public testimony because I wanted to make sure that the Democrats who were listening were really listening. Amen? Amen? And so ID is necessary. They are also talking about making sure that we have secured drop boxes. They have, according to Senator Ruth Johnson, there was a drop box that was made out of cardboard. And to strengthen it, because she complained about it, to strengthen it, the clerk then put some tape, duct tape over it to strengthen that box that is going to contain these cherished ballots. And it sounds ridiculous, but this is some of the things that the left wants to do. Just recently, I heard, by going to the testimony, that the left wants to mail out absentee ballot applications to all 7 million voters in Michigan. They did. That's what they want to continue to do. More than 500,000 came back. And I testified recently that the Secretary of State spent $4 million on mailing, over $4 million on mailing absentee ballot applications to people that don't even live at their addresses and may not be alive. Correct. And that was a waste of taxpayer money. And now she can't even open up the branch offices because she has no money. Now you needed to take that $4 million and pay for staffing to open up the branch offices again. Because this appointment only that is going into November is ridiculous. So I testified to that as well. So we need your voice and common sense. Some other things that they're doing is they're straightening up some of the loopholes with identification. If you have to show ID to vote, you have to show ID in person, you have to show ID to vote absentee. You need to provide an identification if you're going to vote there. And so these are some of the things, and I'm asking Josh to come up and he can highlight, and he's got materials for you, so that you can see a little bit of the summary of what's going on. But we know that the election integrity matters, and an audit. And then one of the things that I shared in terms of the audits is that you cannot audit yourself. Now I know Linda Holloway, you're a CPA. How many CPAs do we have, auditors in here? CPAs, auditors, okay. Linda can testify. The IRS does not allow you to audit yourself. I'm just saying. Yeah, just can't do it on the honor system. So when Secretary Benson called herself auditing the 2020 election with the clerks, it came back perfect. The 71%. They also are working on bills to stop third-party money to being dumped into particular areas, especially in Detroit. They're working to stop that madness. $1,200 or more was paid to workers in Detroit. And I testified to that because all you need is common sense, just a little common sense. I got 2 doctorate degrees, but I got common sense from my mom and daddy. 2 doctorates, but common sense is all you need to testify. If you pay somebody $1,200 or $1,700 to work at the TCF Center, and in Lansing it's $180 for the election night, and they still can't balance 71%, it's fraud. You know, Stevie Wonder could see that. It's fraud. So they're working on that. And so there's a lot of other things that they're working on. They want your support and input. Look at some things that are meaningful to you, to this organization. Then write a position statement. We support this, or we don't support it, or we think that you should consider this or that. They're not going to be offended if you decide that maybe this is not something that we want you to do. Or maybe this is something that we disagree with, but this is what we want you to change it to. So I've been testifying some things that I think if you don't have an ID, you don't get a ballot, period. Drop the mic. No ID, no ballot. Because you're not going to get on a plane. TSA don't play that. TSA does not play that. Come in and say, you know, my name is Megan Reckling, and I want to get on this plane. Not this plane. You can go and find Gretchen Whitmer's $47,000 private jet, but you're not getting on this plane without an ID. And so that's some of the things that they're working on. You should be proud of them. We need to hold them accountable, but now is not the time to crucify our own. It is not. Now is the time to give feedback and input. What's going to happen is everything that they're working on will be vetoed by the governor. Then you and I will be out in the streets all summer getting petition signatures, at least 360,000, so that we can pass what we really want. That's what's going to happen. But right now, they have to go through this process to make meaningful changes in both chambers, so that when we decide we're ready to give them what the people want and we have our petition signatures ready, all they have to do is pass it with a simple majority vote. If they refuse, then it'll go on that November ballot. Does that make sense? It goes to the entire people. And then that's when the campaigns will kick into gear. And so thank you for your patience. We were at the redistricting hearing. I didn't get a chance to testify because I had to come here, but I did get an interview with a Fox affiliate, and so I think that I got like 5 minutes from that. So I think and hope that that will allow me to express what I think about it. And what I shared with the redistricting is that we've had sufficient redlining in America that is discriminatory. We need to keep it compact, our borders, like Megan said, and communities together. But the lack of definition, if they want to carve out communities of interest, I think that we need to be very careful. If I choose, me and 500 racist black people want to move out to a farmland, they don't need to be connected then to an inner city. Does that make sense? Because I choose to live in a rural area with 500 other racist black conservatives, then I do. I'm just saying, because you know who we are. Yeah. And so if we decide to do that, we don't want lines drawn to connect us to an urban community, because it doesn't have to be. Because we are free now and we can live where we want. And that is what I shared on the news media today, that we need to have it drawn without interference of other groups. And this communities of interest smells of discriminatory redlining. And so that's my opinion, that's my personal opinion. And so I'm gonna, thank you. So I am proud to wear a badge as a racist. If it means that we get righteousness that avails a nation, if it means that we get justice, the book of Amos said, let justice roll down like a river. And so we need that. We need to be able to tell our children that we fought for their liberties. And so I'm in the fight, and I'm here, and I'm sharing with you, and I am blessed by the Lord to be able to take the hits, because they can gun after me all they want to. I'll be your racist, but we're going to get an audit in Michigan in the name of Jesus. Amen. They have a website. They have analyzed all of them. If you contact Patrice Johnson, and I'll let you know her contact information, they have a website. They've already reviewed all of the bills. And so this group is in partnership. I know Tammy Carlone is working with a coordinated group across to make sure that people who are working on election integrity can communicate to each other.
Yes.
Hi, Josh. Thanks for being here. On the evening of November 3rd, just minutes after midnight, so really very early morning on the November 4th, as I was watching the election live on television, I also happened to be on the Fox News application, and I'm clicking on the different counties as the results are coming in. I clicked on Berry County, and I noticed that Rocky De La Fuente was beating President Trump by several hundred votes with 66% of the count, which I thought to myself, who in the heck is Rocky De La Fuente? And I had to literally Google him, in which he was the natural law third candidate party on our ticket. That mirrors part of the lawsuit that Matthew DePerno recently had, in which he was saying that third party, there was some type of fraud with the third party tickets. I started to research it. I found a report. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is actually a report for our federal government. You can go right directly to the federal government and get it. It's the Technical Guidelines Development Committee, dated back in 2010. Back in 2010, our committees are, for security, we're talking about Dominion is all over this report. It is not only Dominion, they talk about all the ties to Venezuela, they talk about Hugo Chavez, and they talk about CEO John Paulus. This is from our federal government's website. Are any of the bills doing anything about the machines?
Well, yes. Mostly, go ahead, sorry. I didn't know if you had something before I did. Okay, you wanted to?
You want to get it?
Yeah, which number were you looking at? 'Cause which one did you want to reference? I wanted, if you had a number, I wanted.
I didn't have the number right now, but I do know it's in.
So,
yeah.
one of the bills, there's a lot, so going back to the county that you were specifically mentioning, I would have to look into that situation a lot more. I have not personally taken time to look at that specific situation. There may be, so you were saying that De La Fuente was ahead towards the big, and then okay, so I'm not sure if that had to do with absentee ballots coming in. I'm not sure if municipalities were dropping. So,
The point is also, by morning, he had reversed. Instead of having almost 16,000 votes, he had 16.
60, right. So, yes. The best way to deal with that has to be, the package, in short, speaking for the legislature, does not tackle all of the issues that you're asking about.
They deal with electronic voting. There are bills that deal with electronic voting and the voting tabulation.
And making sure, I mean, we're still on paper ballots, so that's not changing anything with the package that we have.
But they do deal with that in the House and the Senate. But they need to make sure that when it's vetoed, they deal with it in the House and the Senate, but when it's vetoed, then that should be a big priority for the Republicans. But that should be the priority. Do we just do hand counts? That's it. Hand counts. If we do hand counts, then we're not doing tabulation. And it doesn't matter. I propose having a regional count rather than trusting anything out of Detroit. So that's no tabulation, just hand counts.
You're asking about if there's a bill number that cuts tabulation?
There's no bill that cuts tabulation.
There is not.
But there is bills to strengthen it and to make sure that it is audited ahead of time. But I understand it's going to be vetoed. And it's up to us to then help those who are doing the petition signature gathering to tell them what the top priorities are. Dominion, hand counting, ID, no drop boxes.
Hi, my name is Scott Waller. I'd like to vote here in Brandon Township.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's all you need.
That's it.
We don't have computers, we don't need.
I think we're going to be cutting off on questions. I think there was a
Okay.
question about the audits. And so with respect to the status of the audit, the judge kicked it from Antrim County. It will be appealed. It is being appealed to the Court of Appeals, and we shall see. The lower court always deals with deference to the elected officials. They kick it so that it'll go someplace else. We're not shocked by that. So, but there's a group of people, I call them the 5 Daughters of Zephalahed, and Brenda Savage, if you could stand up. Brenda volunteered her son. He's a civil rights lawyer in Detroit at the Penobscot building. We're pursuing prosecutions of crimes at the TCF Center. So, a group of women from West Bloomfield, raised money to secure a retainer for a civil rights law firm to put together prosecutorial packages to submit to Kim Worthy and to submit to federal prosecutors. Because our AG will not prosecute crimes and Kim Worthy's not asking about it. And so we're going to force their hand, and the reason why it's going to civil rights is that if they fail to prosecute crimes that have been prepared by lawyers and civil rights law firms in terms of the elements of the crime, then it becomes an equal protection under the law issue. It's a civil rights issue at that point. And then they will be forced to prosecute crimes, and that you can be assured.
What did you mean when you said 71% of the votes weren't recountable?
So let's say you have all of the AV ballots that came into the TCF Center for Detroit. There was 503 precincts. There should have been 503, but they combined all of them into 134. But every single ballot there counts as one, supposedly. While we have the House and the Senate, but we don't care whether she likes it or not. And you can put that on record coming from this black racist.
Is anybody trying to recall her? Can we try to recall her like they're doing in California with Newsom and in
She's
New
asking
York?
about a recall.
Can we recall her?
There's several things that you can do. Our recall laws are very limited here in Michigan. It is not likely we'll be able to recall her with a vote for next year. Our recall will have to be at the ballot box on November of 2022. So that is our recall for her. She's been sued. She is a train wreck. And all of the three, and I know that they were called witches, I would have substituted a different letter than a W, but, you know, at this end of this day, we have to deal with what we are dealt with, and it had caused us a lot more to pray more, to come together more, to reject more. You can be a Christian, love your country, and you can decide that you are going to go out and not bow down like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You're not gonna, you can be like Daniel, and you can be like Mordecai. You do not have to bow down to government, tyranny, and rule. Our Declaration of Independence, and I suggest that everyone read it again, says, let facts be submitted to a candid world. That is what our Declaration of Independence says in the middle of it. We hold these truths to be self-evident. You know the thing. I'm just channeling Joe Biden. You know the thing. Come on, man. You know the thing. But in the middle of our Declaration of Independence, it says, let facts be submitted to a candid world. Please read it. They lay out what Martin Luther, the 95 Theses, they lay out the tyranny of England. And you need to read it because it's eerily similar to what we see today. Yes, it is. And those who have read it know it. Read it. And I mean not just the portion, that small little portion that people can quote. Read the entire Declaration of Independence. It is what we're dealing with today. And if you don't fight, then sit down. But don't harm the cause. Get in the fight.
So I just want to make one point about what's going on with the legislature right now, is that when any of these bills presented, even if they come back, and you pass the majority in the House and Senate, and they come back, and if they are vetoed, if they aren't making it through, you still got a group of people that want to get them through. We need leadership from the top down to push it through. So don't give up hope. This year, keep going forward, keep moving forward. I do have to encourage everybody to do that. There was another question. Go ahead.
Yes. You've heard of Rescue Michigan, right?
Yes.
Okay, and about a month and a half ago, they were looking at the sets of bills and noting a lot of deficiencies. They really didn't like the 16-year-old pre-registration and also the early voting and things like that. Have you looked at what Rescue Michigan has proposed and tried to incorporate that? Because when I read through down there, I think that makes a lot of sense, basically.
So separately from groups like Rescue Michigan and the legislature have to work separately because of the way we're set up in Michigan to do that. It doesn't mean that those same ideas cannot be incorporated, and I think there's going to be debate and there's going to be room for that. Because right now we are in testimony only, we're not passing through these bills yet. And this also tees it up for when we do take back the governor's house, that we had bills in place passed by the House and Senate that we know what we want to do with them. So it lays the groundwork for that. So every little bit counts. You've got it's a baby step situation. You got to take it piece by piece, win by win, and you move the ball down the field. And that's what we're doing with these 39, even though it's taking a while. Yes.
When she vetoes it, and there's a question, Mike, over there. When she vetoes it, the people now, through our state party and through other interest groups, can decide what we want. And it can be more strict than what is being proposed. It can be different than what is being proposed. But when she vetoes it, we have an opportunity. We will use this as a roadmap. But we're not going to have a petition that says, 86 bills. It just won't do that. We will not be doing all that. So she's going to veto it. We're going to punish her at the petition signature, and we're going to demand that our lawmakers, our Republican lawmakers, pass what the people have demanded. And so I'm here to tell you that groups like that will have a say at that point. But we have to pass these, and then we have to wait for the veto. And if she's smart, she'd go ahead and sign it, because we're not giving mercy at that point.
This question, hello?
Oh, yeah.
Hello?
Oh,
This question's for Josh. I am an election inspector, and I have worked the elections probably since I was in my 30s. I have a question about the internet thing, because it's my understanding the machines are not connected to the internet during the voting, but at the end of the day, when we close the in other words, the polls are closed, there's no voters around, we close the polls, we push a button on the machine and it tabulates all of the votes, and then we unlock with a key a little antenna that comes up, and my understanding is that information from that tabulator is then sent to Oakland County over the internet. Am I wrong about that? Because if we didn't do that, how much is that going to delay the results of the election?
So Linda wants to, okay, go ahead.
So I've been working with Jovan Pulitzer, and Patrick Holbeck, and Mike Lindell, and other folks who know that there are chips and modems and connectivity to the tabulator. You don't need to be connected to a power source to have connectivity. I've got a cell phone. If you call me, it'll ring. So while it's on, there's some things that occurred, that irregularities, and mathematicians have looked at the voting. And there are a lot of different things that we know that occurred that may not be easy to prove except through a forensic audit. And so what they're doing in Maricopa County is what we're hoping to do at the TCF Center. And so I know that Antrim County has really exposed a lot of different things, but we know the level of fraud at 71% non-recountable ballots, in terms of 71% are not recounted. That alone should give pause to to our lawmakers to require it. So there's a bunch of hands that went up.
Yeah, who has the mic?
She's next here.
Does she have a mic?
She doesn't have the mic, but she's got a question.
We have a question. Okay.
Right there, yeah.
Hi.
Oh, right. Oh. This young lady here, if you don't mind. Right there.
I really don't need a mic. I taught in Detroit Public Schools. My question on the 39 bills that are up, we're looking at, is there, you talked about different people had different skin in the game, they wanted their bill to go through. Is there any way, number one, for us to go find those bills online and see how they look, how they differ, so that we know where we're going?
Absolutely. So just go to michiganlegislature.com.
Okay.
And you can type in at the top, .org, michiganlegislature.org, and you can type in SB if it's a Senate bill or House bill, HB, and then the number. Email our office for a list of them if you have a question.
That was my.
Yep.
If somebody's got to have it someplace where we can look at it.
Yes. Yep. Feel free to email our office for a list of them, and we can get them to you. So that's Sen R. Johnson. I don't know. So that's SEN. R. Johnson at senate.michigan.gov. You can also email me. Either way is fine. That's J. Haley, JHALEY, at senate.michigan.gov.
Okay.
And we'll get you the list.
Because it seems to me with that many bills, there are some that must be very, very, very similar one to another.
Yes.
And we should be able to do some sort of a shorthand way of recognizing these bills.
So they all have, the problem with the differences in the bills is they also come from different sections of law. So you have to open different sections of law to change the procedure. So that's also why there's 39. So in addition to everyone having their own voice or say in the situation, you also have to open a different section. So it has to be an entirely different bill. So there's a lot of complications to it, and it's been the first significant election reform package attempted in a while, so no problem.
There are also other groups, Pure Integrity for Michigan Elections.
PIME.
PIME, there's a group.
Radar was just introduced today, along with other legislation through Rescue Michigan, genuine bipartisan apportionment of poll workers, prohibiting ballot tabulators from being connected to the internet, poll challengers' rights and worker training, security features, watermarks for ballots, requiring signature verification to be open to poll challengers and watchers, canvassing and document preservation, and informational recounts and spot checks. These legislation was just introduced today, so feel free to check that out. Hopefully we'll see Senator Johnson's co-sponsoring that in the near future.
Definitely, and then it is on the Senate's radar too, whether it's Senator Johnson as a sponsor or another, it is on the radar of the Senate. I do still want to bring back, you got to get to ground zero on this, really. What we need to do is look to 22 and get either the majority, a bigger majority in the House and Senate, or take back the governor's office, or take back both. Because then you can really do what they're doing in Georgia, what they're doing in Florida, you can really get it to turn around. Because you've got all the pieces together. Here in Michigan, we don't have that. So it's not a lack of will on the part of the legislature, it's a numbers game. We need more in the House and Senate. We need a stronger majority like we had in 2010, where we had 27 members. It was a veto-proof majority. Even if the governor sent it back, you'd still vote it, you'd still override the veto. So that's in the situation. What's that?
What can we do before 2022 to get those
Okay.
results?
Oh, yeah. Yes, before, what?
Just as corrupted as 2020, there's nothing that's going
We're gonna fix it.
And we're gonna, and
We've got the hook coming, because we could be up here all day.
yeah, we're taking up to
We're
it.
gonna take a selfie with all of you, wave your hands. Okay, got 5 seconds, raise your hands. Woo-hoo! All right, good day all. God bless you.
Thank you, Linda Lee Tarver and Josh Haley. Fighting the fight, trying to make elections secure again.